Hello and welcome, I'm Megha Sharma. It has been a very significant day in the Sri Lanka-India ties today here in Colombo. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is on a 3-day trip to Colombo, met President Dissanayaka earlier today. We are standing over here at the Independence Square in Colombo. This is the very place earlier in the day where Prime Minister Narendra Modi was given this historic, unprecedented ceremonial welcome. He was also accorded the very rare and important honor from the country of Sri Lanka by President Dissanayake, the highest civilian award any foreign dignitary has received this now. Not just that, there has been a strong push that has been taken forward by both countries, whether it comes to energy infrastructure or, for that matter, trade deal. Joining me on the telecast to discuss all of the things that happened earlier today are my two very important guests. I have with me on my left Major retired Hemant Dayaratne. He's an infantry officer in Sri Lanka who retired after serving more than 24 years in Sri Lanka Army, and both in times of war and in times of peace. He was also formerly the visiting faculty in India's Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defence Studies and Analysis, and he was also the founding research officer and lecturer in the Department of Strategic Studies in Kothela Defence University from 2012 to 2015. Thank you very much, Major Dayaratne, for joining me. I also have with me on the right Mr. Malind Sene Viratne. He's a political analyst. He was the former editor of The Nation, former director of the Agrarian Research and Training Institute of the Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you, both of you, for joining me. And my first question to both of you is going to be, what was the key takeaway for you from the Prime Minister's visit, and particularly today, when the speeches both the leaders made after having met each other and the MOUs that were signed?
I think, Megha, it is remarkable, and I think especially India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit here. Generally, if I am saying generally, any visit attached to significant political, political, social implication. But here, now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Sri Lanka is at a very crucial time. Sri Lanka is in a very difficult financial situation, economic situation right now. And at the same time, we should not undermine the security aspect. Now, we have had very good understandings, and if I am talking about Sri Lanka-India relations, it has been generally very good. If not, telling you very frankly, in times of IP case, but it was not only being a military officer, I can directly say it was not a military misadvantage, but a political misadvantage. So, I am very optimistic, and I am happy that India to have that kind of an agreement with Sri Lanka. But the thing is, I know there are plus minuses, goods and bads. I think both countries have assessed all these things, and India's concerns are not our concerns. We have separate concerns. Even we are neighbors, our neighborhood is different to India's neighborhood. So sometimes we have common threats and we have unique threats also. I think this will be a good opportunity for us to take everything, every security dimensions into one table and discuss and plan accordingly to mitigate.
Okay. Malind, understanding from you, not just about security, but I'm talking about when such a grand gesture is shown by one head of state to the other head of state. But what is the public sentiment here? What is the sentiment of the public on this regard?
Well, first shock, because of the history of the president's party over the last 40-50 years, not been very friendly towards India. So this is a remarkable shift of friendship. So that would be the first thing that will strike me. I don't know, I can't speak for everyone else. But the question you asked first, the warmth is pretty clear. And good neighborliness, that's always a positive thing. But then in the end, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Is you got to know what the details are. Sri Lanka has had great ties with India on all across all spheres: military, economic, social, religious, whatever you name it. But then we need to get into the details to see what was really inked. What did they really sign? We've only seen the press releases, which are basically very nice.
Yeah, but there's a press release. Like I said, at this point of time, its details are sketchy. They've just come out and built a skeleton structure of this is how we want to proceed further. Now there are going to be working committees that are going to be formed. The ministries are going to start working with each other.
I'm not sure whether the skeleton structure that you refer to is any different from the skeletal structure that already existed. It's not like Sri Lanka and India started talking to each other after President Andrew Kumar Dissanayake visited India, or after Prime Minister Modi came to Sri Lanka. It's an ongoing dialogue. There's been cooperation on all fronts. Of course, if there's any framework for discussion...
But do you think you're hopeful that with the kind of warmth and gratitude that the President of Sri Lanka has welcomed Prime Minister Modi, is there further fostering of ties here on? Is there going to be a jump start that India and Sri Lanka ties are going to see in anticipation now that these announcements have been made?
Yes, Sri Lankan government's position has been we are going to be friends with all governments, all countries. So India is one country. It's obviously very important in terms of proximity, size, history and all that. So the environment seems to be very, very conducive to kind of hopefully measures that benefit both countries, right? We can't have India shining and Sri Lanka not shining or something like that. Or Sri Lanka shining, India just gives us stuff and we take it and say thank you. People say nice things about friendship, but in the end, the reality is that countries pursue their self-interest, which is an important, and that is where you have to find where things can work, where we can work together, we can each benefit from these things. So we don't know how that is going to go, but obviously today is a very nice day. It's not raining right now. The atmosphere is good. The climate is good for hopefully what could be productive outcomes. But we need to. I'm not going to give a blank check to anyone just because someone smiled and someone gave the other person an award, which are nice things to do, very nice gestures and indicative of a lot of trust between the two leaders and all that. But beyond that, I don't want
to. I there's one more aspect that I do want to look at, and this is looking at the future, looking at the development and the growth opportunities for both countries. The trilateral MOU that has been signed between India, UAE and Sri Lanka, this is about making an energy hub in Sri Lanka. What do you think this is going to bring to the economy of Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I think now we have real requirements, and we have real requirements in especially the areas of energy. I know, as far as I know, there are so many projects and there are new stories in there that it is going to happen, and some for an example, Adani's wind power projects, like it is not going to happen. But whatever it is, now the problem in India-Sri Lanka relations, what I see as a military officer, one-time military officer, now into other peripheral areas also. But we should not talk everything in terms of military separate, politically separate. No, we should this should have a very holistic base. But the thing is, I am not talking about specifically about this power and energy sector, but the thing is they were separate agreements, but I think it will be mutually benefits, because there is a common saying. I will let you know in the strategic community also with India, where I was one time with them. When you buy an Indian map, you get a Sri Lankan map free of charge. That is a common saying. That means we are inseparable. It does not say that our independence is compromised to a bigger power. No, it is the reality that we can't do anything forgetting this reality. We have to understand we are independent country, they are independent country, but the thing is, given the asymmetry in size of economy, in size of population, in size of military strength, in size of other things, I don't think that in any agreement there are two agreeing parties. But the thing is now you can't say that this 50 is for you and this 50 is for you, because we have different interests.
I also want to understand why do we continue to focus on the negatives? Why are we at this point of time not focusing on the positive? Because I saw a lot of positives happening from the kind of communique that was issued by the Ministry of External Affairs of both the countries and also by the President and the Prime Minister. So yes, there is an issue with regards to the fishermen problem. Yes, there has been an appeal that has been made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi about the reconciliation and the hopes and aspirations of the Tamils in the northern and the eastern provinces. Yes, and in fact, right after the Prime Minister spoke about the fishermen's issue, there has been an information that has come in from the Sri Lankan side that 11 Indian fishermen have been released. So here, while there are these hiccups and these problems and these irritations, can't these be tided over? Because are we saying our problems are so irreconcilable that we can't come on the talking table? Because here we see two heads of the states, you also said, a man who's a leftist ideologist leader, an ideology that is completely diametrically opposite to the country that he's dealing with, the party that he's dealing with, and suddenly has showcased the gumption to carry forward these ties because it's mutually beneficial.
You should ask Andhra Kumar Disanayaka that question. I'm not his spokesman.
I find it to be very logical, actually.
Well, that depends on your political persuasion, ideological preferences. But yes, let us be positive.
I'm simply not ideologically, not particularly. I'm talking about economically.
Yeah, so there are many options. Certain choices have to be made, and the President has made certain choices. I may or may not agree with it. But as you said, let us focus on the positive. If there's a bilateral, trilateral agreement between India, UAE and Sri Lanka about making Sri Lanka an energy hub, we have an energy issue. We will have an energy issue, and those can snowball into crises that we can't handle. So that is something we need to really take seriously and see how we can take it forward. As long as, this is my caveat, as long as our aspirations of energy sovereignty, like food sovereignty, are not compromised to a point like what happened in Europe. They became so dependent on Russian gas. And what has happened to Europe now? So those things have to be taken. I'm not saying to think, oh, these guys are out to get us. No. Right, but let us not be naive about how the world has, how history has unfolded across time and space. Right, I like the vibes. As you said, the vibes are very, very nice. But in the end, it's the nuts and bolts issues that can build this edifice. The foundation has been laid. Okay. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, there's another aspect that is very important in wake of the global tariff wars that have shaken up the entire globe, and Sri Lanka and India are no different. In fact, there has been a mention that has been made by President Disanayake during his delegation level talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi that it is time now for India and Sri Lanka to come closer, to build more supply chains, to allow for the adverse impact of Trump tariffs to not hit both countries. How is that going to move forward?
I think it is a very good thing. For an example, now I have no any data to say, but even with this kind of closeness, I think Sri Lanka and India has more opportunities in economic and trade terms for partnerships with each other. So there are untapped areas. As far as I know, there are things, discussions, initiatives also going on to have a more bilateral cooperation. I think that is also for the good, because I will again say one thing. It is in the military. There is one interesting saying: if the goods do not cross borders, then the armies. For an example, I will take you back to the 1987. I don't know whether you remember, because the Sri Lankan, that internal political settlement, one party banned imports of all Indian medicines even. Even Dr. Gladys Jayawardene died because of that one. So, but the thing is, it clearly indicates that when the goods does not cross borders, then the armies. That is what really happened in one angle. So, when the goods are cross borders, I think that is why I said, when the ties are going to be increased when trade, social, cultural relations increase. I think we have more opportunities, and at the same time, it will have an overarching impact on all other peripheral areas also. So I am quite optimistic. But the problem is one thing. I think this is good, but at the same time, I want to say this now. It does not mean that we have signed the agreement in compliance with the international best practices and terms. But that is good. But the thing is, I think that is the part of our Sri Lanka to communicate to the Sri Lankan citizens the plus and minus, what is really included, not everything. Because I don't ask that you to, like a trade agreement, tell everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Let's also talk about the recovering economy of Sri Lanka. What is done? What is needed? And how can India and Sri Lanka work together to fill the lacunae? And particularly the current state of affairs, 2022 versus 2025. How has the situation changed?
Well, the stabilization of the economy happened before this government came into power and before Kumar Dissanayake became president. He's merely continuing, which one can say is a good thing. But in the long term, we need to have our economic pundits over the last 50 years have not concentrated on manufacturing. Why in a situation like what you talked about, tariffs and why is Donald Trump wants protectionism. He wants to promote American industry. So there's backup. We were asked to grow, say strawberries, and the market collapses. We can't eat strawberries. Rice is a staple. So there are things that we need to do. The development banks, those are the things that we don't have. The East Asian economies which prospered came because of direct state intervention to set up development banks. They consolidated banks to create those institutions and decided these are the sectors that we are going to focus on to develop, working on our strengths. So in the context of the tariff wars, as you mentioned, the entire world has to come in collectively and isolate Trump. Isolate America. If that is how you want to play hardball with us, let's play hardball. Not because we want to be angry with them. We are just really angry, but because we don't have any other option. So the entire world coming together is a good thing. So we might see this as a good thing to the extent to which people can cooperate. And Sri Lanka has, I was telling you earlier, BRICS. We need to be part of BRICS, right? We have to be part of the de-dollarization movement. And India, China, and Brazil, and all these countries, South Africa, they are part of it. We have to create a different universe of economic engagement, and that I think is where India can be, of course, very supportive and help. Prime Minister Modi can whisper in Kumar Dissanayaka's ear, brother, how about joining BRICS? And he would most likely, his best friend is telling him that. He would say, you think that's a good idea? See, I think it's a good idea. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to...
Well, here's food for thought, and I hope the policymakers are listening. I'm going to come to you about the economy of Sri Lanka, about how the current dispensation is governing the country. It's a new government. It's a new party. Wasn't a strong entity ever before. Has come to power. It's just been 6 months that President Dissanayake has been in power. Do you think enough has been done in the first 100 days of Sri Lankan economy or Sri Lankan government policy changes?
No, superficially it is just the continuation of the former Ranil Wickremesinghe's policy. But there is one thing common in both parties, but they also admit that they continue the same policy with IMF and all the key players. So the problem is not whether it is continuation of the politics, if it is going to be better. And the other thing is now, even we saw the collapse of the country overnight, this has been developing for a long time. So we have to understand. So the recovery also, it takes time. So this government also cannot do miracles. And I'm sure that this government can't do it, a miracle. But we'll see how it is unfolding. But internally, I think, personally, frankly, I think the corruption, malpractices, bribery, they are trying their level best to minimize. That is also a good thing. But the problem is, our problem is not only that. Even the developed countries, they have corruptions, malpractices. But the thing is, they have their strategies, mechanisms to get income. So we don't have. I think the first thing is to focus on that aspect.
Yeah. Build the GDP, bring the jobs, reduce inflation, allow for domestic consumption to increase. Of course, tourism is something that has been a boon for Sri Lanka. Such a beautiful landscape, right from going to the summery beaches to the mountain tops. So Sri Lanka has it all when it comes to becoming the tourism hub. It already has been. The recovery has been faster when it comes to the COVID hit that had taken back the country many years behind. But I thank both of you for joining me, for sharing your views about Sri Lanka and India relationship and how things are going to move forward. Hopefully this relationship will increase in strength and this will allow for a holistic development that takes place for both the countries, for the people of both the countries, and this allows for a subcontinent that is prosperous and that is self-sustaining. On that note, thank you very much for joining us.